Hi everyone, hope you're well. So we've had the first snow of this winter. Might be from the tail end of Storm Arwen. Nice and fresh outside, but obviously that makes driving conditions difficult. So stay safe, people. If you're in Scotland or Northeast England, I think it's went down to the south as well. So I want to talk about Squid Game. Now, I am not going to give any twists here. I'm going to avoid doing that. But what I'm going to do is read from the Wikipedia article in just a minute. But before I get into that, this show has received a lot of hype, and I totally understand the hype. I've never seen anything like it. Um, I would make some analogies to, if you're familiar with Battle Royale, the Japanese films from, I believe they were from a manga series. They were broadcast in the early 2000s. But this is a lot more sophisticated. There's some overlap, there's a similar concept, but I would say these are more, I'd say Squid Game is more intelligent and sophisticated overall. Um, but I've never seen anything like it. I mean, there's only 9 episodes, one series, 9 episodes. Each episode's about an hour. So it's very easy to binge watch this in a few days, as I have. I think I've just watched it over just over a week. Um, I've never seen anything like it, so I'm going to read out from the Wikipedia article and then share a few of my thoughts on the show, hopefully without giving anything away. Um, I'm not sure about the ending, incidentally. For those who have seen it, um, yeah, I don't know about that ending. The mixed views about it. I liked some of it and I disliked other parts. But anyway, this is from Wikipedia. Okay. I should say the series is directed by Hwang Dong-hyuk. So, hopefully I'll pronounce the Korean names correctly here. Squid Game is a South Korean survival drama streaming television series created by Hwang Dong-hyuk for Netflix. Its cast includes Lee Jung-jae, Park Hae-soo, Lee Ha-jun, Jung Ho-yeon, Oh Young-soo, Hyo Sung-tae, Anupam Tripathi, and Kim Jo-rung. The series revolves around a contest where 456 players, all of whom are in deep financial debt, risk their lives to play a series of deadly children's games for the chance to win a 45.6 billion Korean won prize. The title of the series draws from a similarly named Korean children's game. Wang had conceived of the idea based on his own economic struggles early in life, as well as the class disparity in South Korea and capitalism. Though he had initially written it in 2009, he was unable to find a production company to fund the idea until Netflix took an interest around 2019 as part of their drive to expand their foreign programming offerings. All 9 episodes were written and directed by Huang. Squid Game was released worldwide on September 17th, 2021, to critical acclaim and international attention. As of November 2021, it is Netflix's most watched series, becoming the top viewed program in 94 countries and attracting more than 142 million member households, an amazing 1.65 billion viewing hours during its first 4 weeks from launch, outperforming the previous top series, Bridgerton. Now you could tell a lot of money was spent on this production. The set designs are very elaborate. It's more elaborate than a lot of films. The sort of money and work that was put into this. So I'd imagine that would have been a big gamble for the writers, but it paid off. Um, okay, I'll just introduce some of the main characters and let's see, just checking. Yeah, it doesn't say what their fate is or isn't, so I'll go ahead. Lee Jung-jae as Song Ji-hoon, player 456, a divorced chauffeur and gambling addict. He lives with his mother and struggles to support his daughter financially. He participates in the game to settle his many debts and to prove himself financially stable enough to have custody of his daughter, who is to leave for the United States with her mother and stepfather. He's arguably the face of the show, and there's a promotional image that shows him giving a rather unnatural smile. And I initially thought that he must be the game master, but he's not. If you watch it, that's self-explanatory. Park Hae-soo as Cho Sang-woo, the former head of an investment team at a securities company. He was a junior classmate to Gi-hyun so they're sort of friends, and studied at Seoul National University. He is wanted by the police for stealing money from his clients and racking up massive debts from bad investments. And Shu Gi-hyun doesn't understand why he's there. He always saw him as a smart guy. We had Jun as Hwang Jun-ho, a police officer who sneaks into the game as a guard to find his missing brother. Jung Ho-yeon, a North Korean defector. She enters the game to pay for a broker who can rescue her parents across the border and buy a house for her reunited family to live in. Again, she's sort of a breakout star of this show. She's a young woman, 27, a Korean model, and this has definitely catapulted her recognition. Oh Young Soo as Oh Il Nam, an elderly man with a brain tumor who prefers playing the game as opposed to waiting to die in the outside world. He's player 001. Hyo Sung Tai as Jang Dok Soo, player 101, a gangster who enters the game to settle his massive gambling debts, which include money he stole from his boss and underlings. Anupam Tripathi as Abdul Ali, a migrant worker from Pakistan. He's player 199, who enters the game to provide for his young family after his boss refuses to pay him for months. He's notable as the only foreign player. Kim Joo-rong, allowed a manipulative woman. Her reasons for entering the game are never explained, but she boasts that she was charged 5 times for fraud, which insinuates that she's a con woman. Player 212. Um, I suspect some of her lines are for comic relief because this is a pretty violent show. And there's other characters as well, but they're sort of the main ones. Um, just a word here on some of the themes of the film because that's quite significant. Capitalism and economic disparity. Huang wrote Squid Game based on his own personal experiences and observations of capitalism and economic class struggles within South Korea. Huang also considered that his script was targeted towards global issues regarding capitalism, stating, I wanted to create something that would resonate not just for Korean people, but globally. This was my dream, and I do believe that the overall economic order is unequal and that around 90% of the people believe that it's unfair. During the pandemic, poorer countries can't get their people vaccinated. They're contracting viruses on the streets, if and even dying. So I did try to convey a message about modern capitalism. As I said, it's not profound. So there's a lot to say about this, and I'm going to try and do this without giving anything away. Firstly, its influence has been profound. Apparently, a North Korean man has been sentenced to death for bootlegging this. I guess the North Korean regime thinks it's too close to home, and a young woman was sentenced to prison for the same reason. In Metro Manila, the iconic doll from the first game, Red Light, Green Light, has been put up in a shopping mall in Metro Manila in the Philippines. And its cultural influences around the world. In China, I understand some dissidents have used the symbols from the game to try and make a statement which the authorities have cracked down on. So it's had an influence. On Korean culture, I think it's fair to say that in the 21st century, South Korean culture's had a big influence around the world, particularly the growth of K-pop. Also, we think of, well, an example of that, PSY Gangnam Style in 2012, um, Parasite winning Best Picture at the Oscars, and now Squid Game. So I think it's fair to say that South Korea has really made its mark on the world over the past 10, 15 years. Um, Now, on surface, this is a violent show. There's no escaping that fact. It is very violent, it's quite sick actually, when you think of what's happening. Um, and it's almost like this industrial sort of violence that you see in dictatorships because it's a tidy violence. So after the deaths, the people are brought away, then it's all tidied up for the next game, and it's very twisted actually. Um, And one might be tempted to think, well, this is just what is this? It's just sick. What's the message in this? What's the point? But actually, watching the whole way through, I do think it's intelligent. I don't think it's just gratuitous violence. Um, and there's definitely a big twist in the end, which I won't reveal. Um, there's a piece there about foreshadowing of deaths, which I won't talk about because it gives some of the deaths away. Um, let's see, what else can I say? I personally think, something that resonates because of the world that we're in. There's a lot of anxiety in the world right now. We've been through this deadly pandemic. There's increasing rise of conspiracy theories around that. There's serious questions about civil liberties. Um, there is tensions between China and the West. There's growing apprehension about climate change and debates around that. So there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I think it's fair to say that um, there is a sense that the world is in trouble. And I don't want to be overly negative, but one does get that impression. So I think a show like this resonates with people because they sort of associate with the times that we're in. Now, of course, it's artistic license. Such a thing, if you had, and this isn't giving too much away because it's self-explanatory, but if you had a game show where people were being killed off en masse, and remember there's 456 of them, um, that would be a national scandal. Um, Interestingly enough, just by coincidence, and this isn't really related to the game, but it's kind of a coincidence. Um, Former South Korean leader passed away this week, and he was known for his brutal regime. If you just bear with me a second, I'll just mention this point. Yeah, I didn't hear about that until just now. Chun Doo-hwan. So he seized power in 1979, and he was responsible for a massacre in 1980, which is just as shocking as Tiananmen Square. Um, but he's passed away this week, so it's sort of interesting that there's a dystopian theme um, about Squid Game, and then we have, the widow of this dictator who's just died. Because today people think of North Korea as a brutal dictatorship, and of course it is. But until quite recently, South Korea was also a dictatorship. It was also a brutal regime. Um, Maybe not quite on par with the North, but still pretty bad. So South Korean democracy is a relatively new thing, and a big part of that comes from Kim Dae-jung, who was called the Nelson Mandela of Asia. The President Kim Dae-jung, who sort of helped the democratization process of South Korea. But you know, Squid Game is something that you can watch and you can't ignore it. It's absolutely gripping. And in terms of what it does, every episode ends on a cliffhanger. Um, The games are intense. Again, I won't give too much away, but they're based on basic children's games, but with a dark twist. And like I say, the set design is very elaborate. This is a film that has a lot of commentary, a lot of social commentary, particularly about issues around money. Now, I don't know if the director would call himself a socialist, if that's his political leaning. Certainly, I would imagine he's to the left. If his commentary is on capitalism. Towards the end of the show, there's an aspect, and again, I'm not going to give too much away, but think Eyes Wide Shut. If you've seen that film, the Stanley Kubrick film, some of the symbolism, some of the costumes, let's just say, I'm really reluctant to give too much away, but it's quite creepy, but it's very effective. And I think why the series was so successful is the cliffhangers are incredible, the way that is done. I'd give Squid Game probably 8 out of 10. I don't give it higher because I'm not so sure about the ending. Not sure if I like the ending, but for what it does, for being a gripping dystopian thriller, fantasy, drama, it can fall under a lot of categories. It really, really is effective. Yes, it is violent. So if you're squeamish, this is not for you. It doesn't spare the details. However, it's not gratuitous violence. It's not like just violent from start to finish, which is something like Saw. The Saw series, I think, wasn't particularly sophisticated. It was just torture porn. With this, it is violent, but I think it's more intelligent. And yeah, check it out. If you have Netflix, check it out. I personally think it was something that's not easily forgotten. So check out Squid Game. Although one last thing, apparently there's a new series in South Korea that's already surpassed Squid Game. called Hellbound. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's going to have the same international effect or not, but clearly Squid Game's had a big effect. So South Korea is the place to watch for culture, I guess.